Merchandise is now available at store.bowlinglabs.com. The Panda Pack patches benefit Positive Tails Dog Rescue in Kansas City, and the long-awaited Heckin' Urethane hoodie and jacket are up and available. Thanks for your support and enjoy the video. Hello and welcome to the latest edition of my Sport Essentials collection as of April 2021. I'll be covering all the new releases since my last update in August 2020 and talk about their abilities and viability on tougher conditions. Not every ball that releases will make the bag for tougher conditions, but with the amount of tougher conditions there are and the ranges of them, plus factoring in a myriad of different stages and types of transition, there could be a use for every ball out there in certain situations, but some balls find their way out of the bag on tougher conditions in general a lot more often than others. This is just going to include the Storm and Rotogrip catalog releases, as despite having access to 900 Global now, I haven't drilled or thrown any of them thus far, and of course have no video for them. Picking up from where we left off last, starting up in the one ball category and working our way down, the Proton Physics. The Proton features the atomic core from the physics and astrophysics, strong and torquey asymmetric core, and the NEX solid cover introduced on the Axiom. The combination makes it the strongest ball in the catalog right now on paper. I still think the UFO edges it, but that's really splitting hairs because it's a solid one ball. It's super strong, and if you can't get this ball to hook, you're doing something wrong, or that's just the best you're going to get. Hook and traction, of course, are different from shape, so if you're trying to play fourth arrow with it and it's not getting back up the hill, that's a you problem, not a ball problem. Strong balls like this are designed to get a bunch of traction and give you control, not cover boards. I started giving balls ratings not too long ago, and I'm going to stick with the ones I gave the Proton originally: 10 for hook, 4 for length, and 4 for backhand on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. It's like a stronger Phase 2 for me, very familiar shape. Next, we're moving to the Rotogrip side for the RST-X1. This has been kind of a sleeper, but not really. It's virtually just a slightly rounder version of the original physics. Etracks hybrid, which is basically NRG hybrid, are very similar, with the asymmetric Rotostar Tour core, a bit higher RG than we usually see from ASIMs at 253. But it's very versatile, it has enough traction to be a one ball with surface, and it has the ability to move around on the lane too. For me, it's a stronger IQ Tornado Pearl, same general shape, just a fair bit stronger, plus some extra kick on the back end. It could reach down into two ball territory with some shine on it, but if that's in your two ball spot, you have to have a Proton or a UFO in the one ball, and that means you either have no revs or are bowling on a super flood. I rated the RST-X1 with a 9 for hook, 5 for length, and a 5 for back end, and I still find that to be how I see it. This one works off the Rubicon well. Similar idea, but I feel like this one has a bit more dig and a bit less shape than the Rubicon, but the RST will see a lot of work and get a lot of use on tougher patterns. Medium to long and medium to heavy, especially on the fresh, would definitely recommend checking this one out. Next, we're going to take a look at the Storm Insight, and I need to pump the brakes on this one a bit. I'm not sure I got a misread exactly for the review. I just don't think I saw enough of the picture. R4S hybrid, which we haven't seen here before, it's a really strong cover, and the new mild asymmetric tensor core, it's only a few thousandths off in intermediate diff or PSA strength away from being a regular ASIM though, so it's ended up being both stronger and punchier than I read it at first. With a few games on it, it has separated itself more from the Omega Crux than I initially read it. It's still very Omega-like until it hits friction. It's very rolly, lots of traction, pretty stable and controllable from straighter angles, but where the Omega wants to continue to be all those things when it hits friction, the Insight is still rounder shaping overall, but it feels to have a bit more torque and almost accelerate a little bit. It's an Omega with more punch down lane essentially, especially when you begin to add angle. So I'm going to put it here first, make an adjustment in my upcoming report card, but where I had the Insight originally at 844 for hook length and back end, I'm going to adjust that to 945, making it more of a slightly earlier RST-X1. I think it's also a one ball. It's on the lower end of that again, like the RST, but if that makes it down to your two ball spot, you won't be having much fun with whatever you're bowling on. Now we'll touch on the newly released Parallax effect, and it's a monster. Pearl version of the Parallax Traction X7 formula, ASIM Aeroflow core. Numbers and more details on the website, but this is an extremely strong cover. The effect is an easy one ball with surface, but a very high two ball out of the box. Same amount of traction as the Parallax, just with a lot more shape, which makes it feel a fair bit stronger. You lower power bowlers out there, take note, this is a rare combination of a ton of hook and shape. Usually you sacrifice one for the other, but this one both digs and booms. I'd actually recommend knocking the shine off for most people, but this could really work well for lower rev rates. It'll give you more ball reaction across the board than you generally see. As far as sport applications go, at 2000 grit, this could be an all-day / all-tournament ball, especially for the collegiate women who don't generally see the lanes transition as crazy as they do for the guys. Despite not matching up with it really at all personally, I can see a very clear and defined use for it, and honestly might check it out again myself on tougher stuff now that I'm thinking about it. Now, all you lefty fluffers out there could piss the righties off even more with the extra juice the effect has. I originally rated it 8.58 for hook length and back end, and that's where I'm sticking. It's just chonky. Next, we're jumping back to Roto again with the perplexing but amazing Rubicon UC2. I'm not a staffer hype guy. I don't say things like must have and don't sleep on this ball, but the UC2 deserves all the attention it's getting. It's a firm 2-ball. Out of the box, it'll never see the 3 spot, and even with surface, the cover formula itself just isn't strong enough to dig like an Insight or an RST. Extremely rarely are balls both this responsive or quick on friction and this controllable and predictable. Sometimes it's a little too much shape, but it's consistent with whatever it does. Balls like this can be kind of over-under, especially with the factory shine, but the UC2 just doesn't miss the spot. It's Etracks Pearl, the Pearl version of the Idle Synergy cover, which we'll talk about in a minute, and the mild asymmetric Rondur core from the Rubicon, so it's a medium strength cover with a medium to high strength core, and that gives it a wide range of use for most people on most typical league conditions, a very astrophysics type idea. However, that limits it on tougher ones, just not as much as you might expect. Once you get a couple of games of transition on the lanes and some predictable friction, this one can come right out and will chase the shot as deep as you're physically able to. The pros adopted it quickly, and although you don't see it a bunch, the combination of easy length and big boom down lane makes it very readable and actually quite versatile. It's not quite an astrophysics. The Astro was a bit smoother, a little rounder, and you could get too deep for it, but I don't miss the Astro and actually haven't thrown it at all since I got the UC2. I rated it 7.79, and I think I'm going to stick with that. Realistically, it should probably be a 10 for back end. I can't really imagine anything being sharper, actually, and it's a bit quicker than the Nuke even, so let's just do it. You heard it here first. The UC2 sets a new benchmark for back end. It's so responsive that it actually negates the over-under issues that sharper balls can create. It's just going to turn over. Back to Storm with the Axiom Pearl, NEX Pearl Symmetric Orbital Core, and full disclosure, I didn't come close to matching up with this ball. I changed surfaces, changed layouts, just a disaster, but I'm the only one, I think. The blend of strength, control, and pop here puts the AXP in play quite a bit for most people. You're not usually gonna see super long and heavy stuff or super short and dry stuff. Most conditions are gonna be medium length. Volume and ratios are played with a little bit more now because the medium length stuff is usually the most difficult anyway, plus it doesn't block anyone's style out like really long or short stuff can do. The AXP is a high 3 ball. I'd want a strong-ish ASIM and a medium-strength Pearl ASIM for my 1-2 balls. This one could be a 2 ball for slow speeds or big rev rates if you're at like a Rubicon for your 1 ball, but this will slot into the 3 spot for most people as a strong IQ Tour type ball. I rated it 7.66 initially, and that's where I'm keeping it. I don't think this one needs the shine knocked off. I think it needs to stay right where it is because, in my opinion, it's perfect for the early stages of transition when you still need the more controllable rounder shape, but something like the Axiom or Phase 2 is starting to get too early. If you knock the shine off, you kind of kick it out of its wheelhouse as far as I'm concerned. You might need to break the shine with a 4000 pad if it's a little too squirty, but I wouldn't go any further than that. Sliding sideways into the Idle Synergy on the Roto side, my comments would be virtually identical to the Axiom Pearl. However, this is a fair bit weaker cover formula. Hybrid Etracks, even though it acts more like a traditional or stereotypical Pearl, and the now famous strong symmetric Icon core. The biggest thing about the Icon core is that it prefers straighter angles. It can still be used from deeper angles. As a matter of fact, it's really perfect for people who get around the ball because it balances that out and slows things down a bit for them. Solid 3 ball once again, and this one I think needs the shine broken, even though I like mine shiny. It comes out of the factory super glossy, and this is already a really responsive cover formula. Once again, it shares the UC2's cover formula, so it booms. The core slows it down some though, so it can be a bit over-under just due to the general shape and characteristics of the core. This one will be best for people who like playing straight on the lane and have trouble moving in when they get crispy. When other stuff gets too early or strong, this one will still roll more strongly but get you down the lane more easily and still give you some punch with control. It's very good at keeping your angles closed and giving it the high hard one. It basically moves the shape further down the lane into a more effective zone for ball reaction and carry when the track starts burning. Big fan of this one personally. 6, 7, 8 on the ratings for hook, length, and back end. Once again, that's a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, and I still feel like those numbers are spot on. The Storm High Road Max is next, and it's an interesting one because it's our strongest cover in NEX Solid with one of our weaker cores in the symmetric inverted FE2. High RG, medium high differential, so a core that wants to go long with an early and diggy cover. The blend and balance works out really well though because it splits the gap. It gives you traction like an Axiom but easier length, so it can be one of those compromise balls when you need to move left and still get more traction than something shiny or flippier, but more length and pop than something like an Axiom or Phase 2. This was pretty smartly targeting a specific need or reaction and giving people another ball in a popular line. I actually think this one needs a little lane shine though. It's too diggy for how slowly the core revs out of the box. I gave it a 7.55 and that's where I'm sticking to. It's a stronger cover, but altogether it's an overall slightly above medium strength, medium shaping ball that fits squarely into the 3-ball slot. It's really just the cover strength that keeps it out of the 4-ball territory. Lastly, we have the fast pitch, and it's become my default urethane ball. It reminds me a lot of older urethane like the Blue Hammer that's got a rounder shape. Medium strength, medium length for a urethane ball, it's just a little more all-purpose. A lot of them are either super early and strong or trying to create a bridge between resin and urethane, but this one will give you a look squarely between the pitch black and pitch purple. It's best on shorter or drier patterns, and there's really not much more to say. It's a pretty simple idea. Rating urethane is always hard because it's actually quite strong and early. It's just the lack of shape really reduces the board coverage. I gave it a 5.22, and that's probably a little too early as far as the length goes. Realistically, it's more like a 3 or 4. But urethane starts up early and is pretty impossible to rate on a resin scale, so that it just is what it is. This will conclude my April 2021 Sport Essentials update. I'll probably do this again once leagues get ready to start or after a couple weeks, likely in September sometime. Thanks for watching, and may the strikes be with you. Select the next comparison you'd like to see from the links on the screen or scroll down to the description to find links to other choices.